Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Dr. Kulbhushan Chandel from Himachal Pradesh University Shimla. Today we are going to talk on module Models to Study Consumer Behavior from paper Marketing Management. We will be understanding how consumer behave while taking purchase decisions. To understand what factors govern or influence the consumption decisions of the customers. We will also be explaining the economic factors, the psychological factors which play an important role in the consumer behavior. We will be studying the various models, other models of consumer behaviors, and finally we will also be studying the buying process of consumers. Let me start with say what is consumption decision. Consumption decisions may be analyzed both at micro and macro level. Micro decisions deals with the consumptions at individual or household levels, where as the macro decisions, they shows the aggregate of individual decisions at the national level. Besides, these two consumption decisions are also made at organizational levels or at institutional levels. Thus, all the consumption decisions cannot be categorized into micro and macro levels. Some decisions are intermediate, which deals with the industry demand. Consumer behavior or buyer behavior is defined as the behavior that consumes and say the display in searching for, purchasing, using, evaluating and disposing of the products and services that they expect will be satisfying the needs of the customers. Consumer behavior focuses on how the individuals make decisions to spend their available resources on consumption related items. That includes what they buy, why they buy, when they buy, and where they itself buy from, and how often they buy, how often they use it, how they evaluate it also. After the purchase and the impact of such evaluations on future purchases and how they dispose it off. In order to succeed in any business in today's competitive world, the marketers have to know everything they can know about their consumers. They must know what the buyers want, what they think itself, how they work, how they spend their leisure time, and so on itself. They need to understand the personal, the group influences that affect their decisions, and how these decisions they are affected by the other people itself in their group. Let me just study that what is the need for consumer behavior models. When consumer has various options or alternatives and he has to make choices from various alternatives, then the model is required to be formulated. For the models of consumer behavior do not apply to no choice decisions. Thus, the consumer behavior models tells about the decisions of choices to be made from the multiple options under the given constraints. Number and nature of options affects the consumer decisions. Past decisions also affect the present consumption decisions. The model of a consumer behavior has to include the input that go into the decision making, the process through which the decision is made and the outcome after the implementation of purchase decisions. The model creates a link between the causes of decisions to its outcome. Awareness of the need generate the desires, and the desire that is converted or converts itself into the wants, which finally leads to the consumer to make the decision to purchase the goods. And before taking purchase decision, a lot of informations they are collected, and after the purchasing of the purchasing itself of informations, the final purchase, that is the outcome of this of all these models. Models to study consumer behavior. A model is a precise and concise statement of theory. Models of consumer behavior focus on assumption on which these are formulated. The model deals with decision of consumption made by decision-making entities. The model of consumer behavior tells about what factors govern the choice of purchases and decisions. Thus, model includes the process of planning, the purchase, execution of the plan, and after effect of consumption. Consumer behavior is a very complex subject, as needs, wants, and demands of human beings are innumerable. The buyers are also influenced by various internal and external factors. Consumer behavior studies all the major social sciences like economics, psychology, sociology, and anthropology. The influence of these has prompted the experts for following consumer behavior models, which are taken for the study purpose while studying consumer behavior. While studying consumer behavior, we generally consider the following models. We can study consumer behavior with the help of economic model. The economic model of consumer behavior views the buyer as a rational man, and his buying decisions will only be concerned with its utility, deriving maximum utility from the products using his resources as the sole objective for human being. We can study consumer behavior with the help of learning model, which is also known as SR model, means the stimulus response model. The learning model views that the buyer's behavior can be influenced by the manipulating drives, stimuli, and responses of the buyer. This model is based on the man's ability to learn, forget, and discriminate the various aspects which are considered while taking or making any kind of purchase decision. We can also study consumer behavior with the help of psychoanalytical model. This model is founded by Freudian psychology. According to this model, the individual has a complex set of deep motives which drives him towards buying decisions. The buyer is viewed as a world with his own fears, desires, and belongings. It is supposed that the buyer's decision can be influenced by appealing to those desires and belongings. The next model to study consumer behavior is sociological model. This model views the individual buyer as being influenced by the society. He is influenced by the intimate groups and social classes. His buying decisions may not be rational when he tries to fulfill his desires. In such context, several of his buying decisions may be taken due to the social compulsions and are not taken at all rational aspects. We can study the consumer behavior on the basis of Howard-Seth model. This model came from John Howard and Jagdish Seth in 1969 in their publication titled The Theory of Buyer's Behavior. The buyer is analyzed as a system with stimuli as the input into the system and behavior as the output of the system. In between, there are various variables which affect perceptions and learning. Other prominent models of studying consumer behavior are psychoanalytical model, Nicosia model, Howard-Sate model. Psychoanalytical model. According to this model, alone the economic factors do not influence the consumption decisions. Psychological factors also play a very important role. Due to the psychological variables, human beings respond to same stimuli differently. Thus, psychological factors are the cause of consumption decision as far as this model states. That is why this model is categorized under behavioral economics. Consumer behavior model is the outcome of interrelations between economic and psychological factors. Psychoanalytical model is an inspiring model to determine consumer behavior theory. Nicosia model. This model is also known as the Francesco Nicosia model. In 1956, a leading scholar, Francesco Nicosia, in the field of consumer behavior gave this model. This model is a comprehensive model. Nicosia model is mechanistic and applied computer flow chart technique to depict a relationship among the different elements. According to Francesco Nicosia, each element of consumer behavior depends upon preceding elements. Each element becomes the input of next element. This model shows a web between firms and consumers. Firms communicate with customers through advertisements, and consumers respond to this communication also. These responses will act as a base for firms' further actions. This is also known as pre-testing before the launch of any new product. Nicosia model, when we are just discussing, this model states, or this model is a descriptive one and not the analytical one. The highlight of this model says that firm give a specific communication so as to get appropriate response from the consumers. The response of consumers depends upon two attributes. One, attributes of consumers, and second one, attributes of communication, or which is also known as attributes of a firm. These two attributes must match to get the desired response from the consumers. Until the attributes of communication or the firm through communication matches the profile of consumers, these will not be desired response. Other firms will intimate the firm's communication. If the firm's communication is successful in getting desired response from the consumer's side. Howard-Sate model. John Howard and Jagdish Seth propounded this model in 1969. This model is more comprehensive and realistic than the other models. The model is too broad to analyze the behavior of individuals as well as institutions. Producers want to sell the entire output. It is irrelevant to whom it is to be sold. Besides micro and macro demand, the proportion of total demand is accounted by inter-industry demand. Business houses do not purchase for direct consumption, they execute a long-term agreements with the suppliers to buy in bulk. They behave differently from individual households. Each buyer reacts differently according to his goal. Thus, the model seeks to explain the comprehensive purchases by all the parties, like purchases of trading firms for retailing selling, the purchases of manufacturing firms to meet intermediate demands, the purchases of government, the purchases of export houses for selling abroad, etc. This model is wide theory of purchase behavior of all the consumers. The Harvard-State model is more comprehensive than Francesco Nicosia model. This model recognized the importance of learning and its influence on purchase decision. But the model excludes the influence of unsatisfactory experience from the purchase decision. Model also overlooked the oligopoly market form when few sellers always compete with each other to tap the consumer's attention by introducing new products. This never-ending process, and a satisfied consumer will also accept the new offer which provides him better quality and low price for a product or services. The model does not offer any method to measure the variables like motives, intentions, and predispositions. It also ignored the importance of role of family members in the purchase decisions, and consumers' behavior is usually repetitive in nature. Consumer tends to save information in their mind and establish a routine behavior. There is a wide gap between the operational specifications and theoretical definitions of a variable. This model also does not give any general theory to explain or analyze the consumer's behavior. This is more descriptive than analytical. Let me discuss now buyer's characteristics which influence the consumer behaviors. Consumer behavior is influenced by the cultural, social, personal, and psychological characteristics of the buyers. These factors are not controlled by the marketing people, rather they have to understand them to study consumer behavior. These can be understood as under. Say, let me take the cultural characteristics. The first, cultural factor like the buyer's culture, subculture, and the social class have a broad and a very deep influence on the consumer behavior. As a person grows in the society, he learns a basic set of values, perceptions, the preferences, and the behavior through the process of socialization. Then the subculture. The main culture include the small group of subcultures that provide more specific identifications and socialization for its members. It includes nationalities groups, racial groups, communities, the geographical locations, etc. All these have effect on buyer behavior. The social classes. These are the homogeneous groups which have whose members share their similar values, interests, behaviors. Upper classes, middle class, lower class are such social groups which do influence the buying process of our consumers. Social characteristics. Among social characteristics, reference groups play a very important role. Reference groups influence the buyer behavior very strongly. The consumer behavior is not only affected by the family members but also by the groups outside the family. Every person is not only the member of his family but also the member of some groups outside the family. These groups can be called as reference groups. Reference groups are the social, economical, and professional groups with whom the customer interacts directly or indirectly and often take their directions and advice to evaluate his purchase decisions. Reference groups play a significant role in attitude formation. The study of reference group is also relevant for the marketers in formulating effective marketing programs. The marketers therefore tries to categorize the reference groups of their target customers. Family. Family as a main group greatly influences the consumer behavior. Most of the decisions made by the consumers are taken within the family environment. They are affected by the desires, attitudes, and values of the other family members. Family traditions and customs build up individuals' taste, personality, ambitions, attitudes, and lifestyle do influence the buying behavior. It decides the pattern of consumption. The family influences the decision-making process involved in buying. The members of the family may play different roles while taking buying decisions. Personal characteristics. It includes age. Age is an important factor for segmenting the market and to influence the consumer behavior. The need and requirements of an individual change with the change in age. Occupation. The occupation of a person decides the consumption pattern. A person normally buys goods that suits with his occupation. The needs of an individual largely relate to his work. Thus, a marketer should try to design different products to cater the needs of different occupational groups. Economic circumstances. These determinants refers to personal income, disposable income, discretionary income of the consumers, the rate of interest on the income, the degree of economic inequality, regional imbalances, inflation, etc. Knowledge of these factors is essential to understand the consumer behavior. Personality. The behavior of every individual differs from one to another. The personality develops with certain unique characteristics called traits. The personality traits are different in individual to individual. An understanding of the personality traits of the consumers helps the marketer to identify the different kinds of behavior of their customers. Such an understanding goes a long way in formulating a compatible marketing strategy for the marketers. Hence, the personality is a useful variable in analyzing consumer behavior, but classification of personality traits and its evaluation is a difficult task, and that has to be just taken and studied very carefully. The lifestyle. It has been observed that consumers are coming from different culture, subcultures, social classes, occupations, etc. bears different lifestyles. The lifestyle of a person represents his activities, interests, opinions, and demographic features which itself influence the consumer behavior. Psychological characteristics. It includes the motivation. Motivation is something that makes the individuals to act in a particular way. It determines the behavior of a consumer and explains why a consumer acts in a particular manner. According to Philip Kotler, people are exposed to a large number of stimuli. It is not possible to concentrate on all of them. People generally notice the stimuli that relates to their current needs. Further, people bend the information according to their ideas and preconceptions. They recognize only that information that which fulfill or which will fit to their setup. Sometimes they ignore the positive aspects of alternate brand since they have already made their decisions. Perceptions. Perception is a process wherein human mind receives and interprets physical stimuli and formulate his mind set with regard to some object. Perception has its own impact on consumer behavior or consumer decision making. There are different types of perceptions in the minds of the consumers, such as product perception, food items such as fresh, price perceptions such as low priced product or the low quality product, and like that. Then the belief. Some authors explain belief as determinant of consumer behavior. A person forms certain beliefs and attitudes in his mind based on the experience and learning. A belief is a descriptive thought that a person has about product or service. Such beliefs are powerful tools in developing product and brand images. Marketers must make efforts to correct the wrong beliefs, if any, because consumers act on their beliefs. Attitude. Attitude refers to a predisposition of a person to behave in a certain manner when exposed to a given stimulus. Social psychologists define attitude as an emotional predisposition of the consumer to respond positively or negatively to an object or class of his object. Thus, a person can have positive or negative, favorable or unfavorable attitude towards people, place, products, and other things. The most important is the stages in buying decision process. Let me discuss the various steps which are included in the buying process. The buying process of a consumer is the decision-making process leading towards purchase function. The buying process has composed of many stages and is influenced by number of factors. The customer thinks much before taking purchase decisions. For same items, he takes no time to decide, whereas some items like luxurious one, he takes much time to decide about his purchases. The buying process passes through various steps. Let me just discuss one by one. It starts with the need recognition. The buying process starts with the arousal of the needs. The need is activated through internal and external stimulus. The basic needs of human being are the internal stimulus, which inspire him to go in for the purchase decisions. It includes the need for hunger, the thirst, the sex, etc. On the other hand, the need which aroused from the objects which we saw in the external environment are the external stimulus. For example, when we saw some product in the shop, while purchasing some other products is an example of external stimuli. The marketers must identify the drive that might connect to the potential buyer and make the buyer feel that the product can satisfy their needs. Then the second step in the buying process is the information search. After arousing the need, the customers try to get as many as informations about the product or services he needs. If needs are more intensive, then consumers enter the state of active information search. He tries to get more information about the products and services. The following are the main, let me discuss few points, informations or the source of informations which may be helpful, which itself help the customers to get the informations. The personal sources are, he may get the informations from the family, friends, neighbors, etc. Then the commercial sources are there. The informations from this source is got from the advertisements, salesmen, dealers, etc. They also help the buyer to provide him the certain informations. Then the public sources are there. It includes the mass media, the consumer rating organizations, and so on. Experimental sources includes handling, examining, and using products, etc. That also help him to just take certain feedback. The marketers find it worthwhile to satisfy consumer information sources to plan marketing strategy efficiently and accurately. The next step which is important in the consumer buying process, that is the interest. The consumer interest is indicated in its willingness to seek further information about the product. At this very stage, the consumer is actively involved in the buying process and pay proper attention to get maximum information about the product and services. If his interest is lost somewhere in between, the attention that may be diverted resultantly, he may be losing his interest to buy the product or services. The marketer should focus objectively to maintain his interest and must try to attend his queries efficiently and objectively also. Then the fourth stage which comes in the buying process is evaluation. Once the interest to buy the product or services is generated, the consumers enter to the subsequent stage of evaluation and making his intention. It is a stage of mental trial by the consumers on the products or services. In this stage, the consumers assign a relative weightage or weights or rank to the different products and services and evaluate the pros and cons of buying those products and services. After this stage, the consumer make up his mind set either to buy the product or services or to leave them. On the basis of the evaluation, the process, the marketer can develop the product and segment of the market in accordance to the needs and requirements of the customers. Purchase decision. There are some other considerations too which play an important role for taking buying decisions. These includes as under the attitude of the family members, relatives, and friends. The anticipated situational factors as expected family income, expected total cost, and expected benefits of products and services. The consumer takes final decision after considering all such factors. In such stage of buying process, a consumer take the final decision to buy the product or service. Post-purchase feeling. This is a final stage of consumer buying process. If the product or services matches with the expectations, the consumer will be satisfied with the products or services offered to him to buy. On the other hand, if it falls short of his expectations, he will be dissatisfied. Post-purchase behavior originates out of the experience regarding the use of product and services. This behavior is reflected in repeat purchase from further purchases. If product use experience indicates satisfaction, then repeat purchases will occur, otherwise it will not occur. Hence, the very spirit of consumer behavior study is the gratitude of the fact that consumer is a multifaceted person influenced by the social environment in which he lives, his family, his society, his friends, his colleagues, etc. They are playing important role and leaving some notion on him and influencing him in his day-to-day life. So students, now let me summarize that what we have learned in this module. We have learned that consumer behavior is not an easy task. It is important for the firm which want to survive in the market for long run. Proper analysis of consumer behavior helps the marketer to frame marketing strategies according to the needs of the consumers. Consumer behavior or buyer behavior is defined as the behavior that consumer display in searching for, purchasing, using, evaluating, disposing of product and services that they expect will satisfy their needs and requirements. Consumer behavior focuses on the how the individual make decisions to spend the available resources on the consumption related items. That includes what they buy, why they buy, when they buy, and where they buy, and from whom they buy the product, and how often they buy the product, how often they use it, and how they evaluate it after the purchase, and the impact of such evaluation on future purchases, and how they dispose it of. All these things we have learned from this very module. In order to succeed in any business, in today's competitive world, marketers have to know everything they can know about the customers. They must know what the buyer wants, what they think, how they work, how they spend their leisure time, and so on. They need to understand the personal and the group influences that affect the consumer decisions and how these decisions are affected by other people when the consumer has various options or alternatives and he has to make choice from various alternatives. Then the model is required to be formulated. Models of consumer behavior do not apply to no choice decisions. Thus, the consumer behavior models tells about the decisions of choices to be made from the multiple decisions under the given constraints. Number and nature of options may affect the consumer decisions. Past decisions also affect the present consumption decisions. The models of consumer behavior has to include the inputs and that go into the decision making, the process through which the decision is made and the outcome after the implementation of purchase decisions. The model creates a link between the cause of the decision to its outcome. Awareness of need generates desires, and the desire converts itself into the wants, and which finally leads to the consumer to make the decision to purchase the goods after making it their needs and demand. Before taking purchase decision, a lot of information is collected, and after the processing of informations, the final purchases will be the outcome. Consumer behavior is a very complex subject, as needs, wants, and demand of human being are innumerable. The buyers are also influenced by various internal and external factors. The consumer behavior study all the major social sciences like economics, the psychology, the sociology, the anthropologies, and others. There are various models, as discussed above, provide a base to understand behavior of the consumers. These models tells about the factors which govern and influence consumption pattern of consumers. There are various factors like social, economic, psychological, etc., which determine the consumer behavior. Consumer behavior depends upon two variables, that is the stimulus and the response, SR model, which is known, and consumer learns his behavior from the family, friends, reference groups, neighbors, changes from time to time. Thus, consumer behavior models explains the whole process of planning the purchase, execution the plan, and after effect of consumption. Thank you.